Davis Payne. Welcome to Motor Week.
And I'm Helen Casey. Today we report on races ranging from a 500-mile stock car grind to 6-second explosions of drag racing excitement. But the headline story involves a race 24 hours long.
Helen, Motor Week sources say Jaguar will soon announce its entry in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the world's most prestigious endurance road race. Jaguar currently dominates the standings in the American Camel GT Series, but they'll give up their title hopes in that series for a shot at the 24-hour glory. Details are coming up. 24 hours is the magic number in Europe, but in America, it's 500. The Daytona 500, the Indy 500, and the toughest 500 of them all, the one at Darlington, South Carolina. We're going to show you Southern-style stock car racing, just as it was born decades ago in that sleepy little town. Our stock car expert, Ned Jarrett, used to drive Darlington. Ned and his fellow racers love to talk about the perils of America's oldest superspeedway.
There's been a lot of adjectives about this racetrack over the years. Most of them you couldn't air. Some of the milder ones are the track that's too tough to tame, the lady in black, and certainly today was no exception. It didn't take long for that mean old track to reach out and start biting. Pole sitter Benny Parsons lost control on the first lap and hit the wall.
The least thing can get you in the wall. You go in turn one 1,000 times, the 1,001st time it's liable to reach up and bite you.
On lap number 3, Dick Brooks in number 90 spun in turn 3, causing quite a traffic jam.
If anything happens in front of you, most time it's all you can do to hang on and get around by yourself. And if something happens, there's not a whole lot of room for mistakes or for you to manipulate around them.
Besides Petty, Bobby Allison in number 22, Ron Bouchard in number 47, and Jeff Badine in number 5 were all involved. Petty and Bouchard were able to make repairs and continue. Allison lost 34 laps getting his Buick back on the track. Darrell Waltrip in number 11 couldn't believe he was able to move from his 9th starting position to the lead during all of that. He had to figure it was going to be his day. Tim Richmond charged from 13th to 2nd in his Pontiac number 27 before the lady in black reached out for him on turn 4. It wasn't through with him either. His crew made repairs, he got back in, but this time she got him on the backstretch. Richmond said, "That's enough, just let me get out of here." Dave Marcus had assumed the lead in number 75, but his turn of fate came too as he and Buddy Baker tangled in Ford number 21. The race was stopped for rain after 108 laps, but that didn't cool the lady in black. As if she hadn't done enough under the green flag, she reached out and got Buddy Baker during the caution.
If things are not going right for you in the day at Darlington, it can be all the things that everybody's ever called it, and you'll make up a few words for it, but I love it. I think it's what racing's all about.
Also involved in that freak deal were Joe Ruttman in number 98, Terry Labonte in number 44, and Rusty Wallace in number 88. You would think that old lady would loosen her grip, but not so. Here we go again, this time in turn 1. She decided to get some of those that done been got, like Dick Brooks, Rusty Wallace, and Jeff Bodine. Greg Sachs in number 51 and Buddy Arrington in number 67 also got stung. D.K. Ulrich almost got upside down in car number 6. Amazingly, there were no injuries, but most of the cars in the race looked like they'd been in a demolition derby. Darrell Waltrip was building laps on the leaderboard. His strategy was just to stay out of trouble.
You don't race anybody here. You race the racetrack itself. And in order to do that, you've got to stay out of traffic. You got to stay out of bunches of cars. The best thing you can do when you see 5 or 6 cars ahead of you racing is back off. Give yourself some escape room so that if anything goes wrong, you got somewhere to go.
Lake Speed in car number 1 ran his best race ever and was a threat to Waltrip until the valve train failed in his Chevrolet with 45 laps to go. So the lady in black smiled on Waltrip to give him his 2nd win of 1984 and his first big track win since October of 1982. For Motorweek Illustrated, this is Ned Jarrett at the Darlington Raceway.
Darrell Waltrip has now won Darlington 4 times. Since 1975, he's won more Grand National races than any other driver. Darrell gets booed a lot for whatever reason. Many fans don't like him, but the evidence is clear. Darrell Waltrip is the greatest stock car racer of this decade. car race at Darlington 34 years ago took 7 hours to run. Compare that to drag racing, 6-second blasts of excitement. The National Hot Rod Association Winston World Championship Series has never been healthier. Each week, the drivers flirt with world records and the fans turn out in droves. Steve Earwood reports.
The NHRA continued to enjoy record-breaking crowds as a tour moved to Atlanta Dragway for the 4th annual Southern Nationals. More than 38,000 fans turned out, lured by the sport's big stars. Joe Amato was a top fuel favorite. He's the first man to go 260 miles per hour in a dragster. Raymond Beadle was there in his famed Blue Max funny car, along with the legendary Don the Snake Perdome, most experienced of the funny car pilots. There's Billy Meyer, professional drag racer since the age of 16, and Shirley Muldowney, who has won more Winston World Championships than any other top fuel driver. Kenny Bernstein came to Atlanta on a real hot streak, but last week's Motor Week guest immediately fell victim to a frustrating series of mechanical problems.
We've destroyed probably everything that we own in this race car operation this weekend.
Bernstein didn't destroy his now famous computer because he didn't have it.
It was supposed to be flown in here this weekend, and it was supposed to show up last night. As a matter of fact, we haven't seen it yet, but it doesn't matter at this stage of the game. We're still doing it the old way.
Doing it the old way, Bernstein made it to the funny car final where he met a confident Billy Meyer.
We have both been running extremely well as of the last month, so this should be a good race. We ran him here about 3 weeks ago and beat him with a 581 to a 587, so I would say it'll be the best race of the day.
It was a good race. Good for Billy Meyer. He led start to finish, turning in the second quickest run in funny car history. That's the first national win of the year for the 29-year-old Waco Texan. In the top fuel class, Joe Amato has been breaking records lately, and his aerodynamic wing has been getting a lot of the credit.
Well, the wing is, like I've told everybody, the wing is a part of the operation, but it's one part of 10. You know, you need a car that'll make horsepower and be consistent and be running on 8 cylinders at the finish line before you can even attempt to use a wing of that type.
In the preliminaries, Amato really didn't need any advantage. Here he eliminates Shirley Muldowney, whose engine blew at the finish line. Reigning top fuel world champ Gary Beck barely made it off the starting line before his motor exploded. That allowed Dick LaHaye to advance, and to everyone's surprise, LaHaye marched all the way to the finals where he met the potent Amato.
He's got to beat me just as much as I have to beat him. And, you know, it's a drag race, that's what it amounts to, and anything can happen.
LaHaye in the far lane gave Amato a great race. LaHaye got the whole shot, and Amato needed the fastest speed of the weekend, just a shade under 260 miles per hour, to win at the finish line. Amato has made all 3 finals this year. He's won 2, and he's thinking championship.
Well, you don't ever want to count your chickens before they hatch or until the fat lady sings, but I think, you know, as far as the World Championship goes, that's our goal.
In the pro stock class, Lee Shepard, undefeated through the 4-year history of the Southern Nationals. He beat Don Campanello in the final Sunday. Take a bow, Lee.
Now, one lap of America, a road rally around the perimeter of the country. Bob Snodgrass is driving our Motor Week entry. He's on the phone to tell us how that week-long grind is going.
We're just south of Washington, D.C. We've completed 8,500 miles. We have about 3 hours to go to the completion of this thing, and we can smell the food cooking at the Lock, Stock, and Barrel in Darien, Connecticut. It's been a mind-boggling experience. It's a really long drive, and we're hoping to do very well, and we're definitely in the hunt.
We'll have final results next Saturday.
And now that Jaguar story. We expect the announcement soon. The company will go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time in decades. To clear the way for that effort, Jaguar has withdrawn from the next 2 Camel GT races. That has to be a disappointment to the American drivers of American-built Jaguars who currently own 4 of the top 5 spots in the Camel GT standings. That's become the most competitive endurance road racing series in the world, but apparently the decision makers in the British company think Europe's premier endurance race is still the big plum. The recent racing exploits of our senior editor. I'm relieved to report Steve Potter did not crash a Sport Renault car last week in North Carolina. Somebody else destroyed the car before he got in it. And our Jim Roller made a decent driving debut in last weekend's Pro Rally season opener, then filed this report on the weekend action.
Olympia, the Washington state capital, is quickly becoming the capital of United States rallying. And this year, Rally Week Northwest kicked off the 1984 season. The beginning of the new rally season is a time for high hopes. Rod Millen on the right aspires to dethrone series champion John Buffum on the left and regain the title Millen lost to Buffum 2 years ago. Those two got at it early. Buffum took the lead with Millen chasing.
We're just going to have to stay pushing him hard all the time. And quite honestly, one of us normally makes a mistake and leaves it open for the other.
Millen's new lightweight Mazda kept pace with Buffum until brake problems forced him off the pace. Repairs were made during a service break and Millen resumed the chase, but by then Buffum had all the advantage he needed. He won by over a minute and a half. The new season also sees a new class of rally competition, the GT Production Division for turbocharged and other high-performance cars. The inaugural race fell to New Zealander Richard Kelsey in a Mazda. Production class honors went to newcomer Doug Shepard. Formerly a co-driver for John Buffum, Shepard will spend the season driving for Dodge. He edged Bruce Davis by a scant 12 seconds. Rally Week Northwest will conclude with the Olympus Rally tomorrow. This is Jim Roller reporting from Olympia, Washington.
Well, we've talked a lot today about the duration of races, 500 miles, 24 hours. To motorcycle road race fans, the perfect race length is that of a Grand Prix, something less than 100 miles. That distance demands absolute flat-out racing. No fancy strategy, no waiting for a late race sprint. You've got to go for it. Freddie Spencer is the best Grand Prix racer in the world, and we'll be following him throughout the 1984 season. You have to imagine racing a motorcycle at 180 miles an hour to appreciate just how skilled and how brave Freddie Spencer really is. At such incredible speed, the price of error is very high. The consequences of a crash, most severe. Spencer knows those consequences, but watch how he rides his motorcycle. A handful of men in the world can broad slide a road race bike, intentionally or in desperation. Freddie Spencer is the best of that handful. He is the world champion and Motorweek's Racer of the Year. It is remarkable that Spencer raced last Sunday in round 2 of the '84 World Championship. His rear wheel broke at the series opener, threw him to the pavement. 3 weeks later, the battered but determined champion is back to defend his crown. This season was supposed to be a Freddie Spencer runaway. The only man who could challenge him last year, Kenny Roberts, has retired from Grand Prix competition. But in Roberts' place lurks a new challenger to Spencer's dominance of this dramatic form of motorsport. Eddie Lawson, a Roberts protege. Last year, he followed King Kenny along the Grand Prix trail and learned his lessons well. At Mazzano, Italy, Lawson was the fastest first-day qualifier. The next day, Spencer took the pole, then reflected on his South African injuries.
The first couple of days, it was sore. And when I'm riding like today, it really didn't bother me. So until I got off the bike, it could hurt all at once after I get off the bike tomorrow.
Race day. Spencer returns to the battlefield, refusing to acknowledge the pain in his injured legs. On his right, the challenger, Lawson, prepares for combat. The traditional push start. Spencer and Lawson both get away slowly. They run 6th and 7th through the traffic jam in turn 1. But soon, Spencer is lapping slower riders at a breathtaking rate. By lap 6 of 40, he is in the lead and pulling steadily away. Memories of the South African disaster far from his mind. Lawson gives chase valiantly. He uses all the moves he learned from the master, King Kenny Roberts. Lawson carries the same number 4 as his mentor. He displays the same knee-dragging style that Roberts invented. Eddie cuts a spectacular swath through the Italian traffic, but he's racing for second. Out front, Freddie Spencer is all alone. He leads by 20 seconds as he streaks toward his first checkered flag of the '84 World Championship season.
After the problems in the first race in South Africa, this is kind of like the start of the season for us. So it is one down, and we still have 10 more races before the end of the season. And I just hope that this is the start of good things.
Despite missing the year's first Grand Prix, Spencer now ranks 3rd in the World Championship standings. You'll see more of Fast Freddie next Saturday on Motor Week. American IndyCar racing, it was blue-collar motorsport. When the IndyCar Owners Group championship auto racing teams took over, things changed. Jerry Garrett reports.
Several years ago, noted L.A. sports writer Jim Murray slammed IndyCar racing. He called it a beer guzzler's circuit. Champagne, he said, was for Formula One. But my, how things have changed in IndyCar racing. Thank you. A toast to 1984. The moon rose and the stars of IndyCar racing came out en masse for this 5-star pool party at the swank Arizona Biltmore. As the haute couture and elegant cuisine eloquently attest, in IndyCar racing, the Champagne era has arrived. This year, IndyCar racing will top Formula One in attendance, in the number of race dates, and in prize money, $10 million. In prestige, Formula One still outweighs IndyCar racing, but the scales are tipping the other way. 5 years ago, an IndyCar party meant a kegger in the infield. What's happened? What's different?
Things have changed. It's incredibly different now, and it takes a different thinking. The old days would not have made it today because they were the guys that were just racers. Today, you have to be a businessman racer.
How much do you credit CART for what's happened?
Oh, a great deal. The right people just grab, as they say, the bull by the horn and steered in the right direction, and no one to argue with the success up to this point.
If stuffed shrimp and Dom Perignon are any measure of that success, CART is obviously on the right track. From poolside at the Arizona Biltmore, this is Jerry Garrett reporting.
The party action last week at Phoenix, obviously quite enjoyable, but they also ran a race there. We got Jerry out of his tuxedo to tell us about it.
Dave, it was scorching hot on race day at Phoenix with lots of green flag action. Roger Mears and Al Unser Jr. tangled on lap 13, the only caution that slowed the torrid pace. The hot weather seemed to foul up everybody's fuel mileage. Car after car ran dry, and when the hot engine stopped, it was especially difficult on this day to get them running again. Pole winner number 4 Tom Sneva led the first half of the race, but ran out of fuel. Mario Andretti's red number 3 then led, but he made the same blunder Sneva did. Andretti lost the most time, though, getting restarted, and later broke his Lola trying to catch up. That put Sneva in a lead he easily kept to the finish. Howdy Holmes, number 41, Sneva's teammate, had the only car on the lead lap when Sneva took the checkered flag. Holmes, Andretti, and Simon had their best ever CART finishes. Sneva's win puts him atop the point standings, and he's optimistic his team can help him stay there.
Basically, we've got similar cars to a lot of the other teams out there, and for them to prepare it to make the job of driving as easy as it was today, it's pretty exciting for me to think about it for the rest of the season.
That's quite a turnaround for Sneva, who was unemployed until just a month ago.
Jerry, the Indy 500 looms as the next CART PPG Tour stop. Can you pick me a Memorial Day favorite yet?
No, but I'll pick you front row. Tom Sneva, Mario Andretti, Teo Fabi.
Okay. Sneva, of course, the defending 500 champion. His oval track win at Phoenix Sunday, important on 2 counts. It gives Tom great momentum as he heads for the Brickyard, the month of May, and the biggest oval race of them all. It also gives him the IndyCar point lead. Recall that in the season opening Long Beach street race, Tom got 3rd. That's a remarkable performance for a guy who readily admits he's really not much of a road racer. Our Champion Racer of the Week honors go to Tom Sneva, now a candidate for a new Honda 500 Interceptor motorcycle that goes to our 84 Racer of the Year. Sneva's backers get our Wrangler U.S. Air Force Reserve Behind the Scenes Award. Teddy Mayer owns Mayer Racing. They return to IndyCar racing this year. Tyler Alexander is the designer who handles the technical end of that program. Teddy and Tyler spent the last several years Formula One racing. Now they're back on the IndyCar scene strong as ever. They'll each get a new outfit from Wrangler. Today we're pleased to welcome the Mr. Gasket Company to our program and to bring you the Mr. Gasket weekend calendar of events we'll be following on Motor Week. It could be the final meeting of the 2 biggest stars in bike racing. Kenny Roberts, 3-time world champ, soon to retire, and Freddie Spencer, reigning world champ in the Transatlantic Match Race Series from England.
The Olympus Rally in Washington is a candidate for World Championship status. We'll see the 1984 renewal of that event next Saturday.
And from Monza, Italy, Jerry Garrett brings us the opening round of what could be the most interesting World Endurance Road Racing Championship Series in years. Finally today, a couple of motorsports personalities who obviously aren't playing from the same deck as the rest of us. Giant 4-wheel drives that squash cars are nothing new. You've seen this sort of thing before on Motor Week. But John Breen figured out that with those giant tires fully inflated, his truck should float. Sure enough, Breen can walk on water. Last week he proved it by calmly motoring across the 100-foot deep Lake of the Ozarks. Now there's nothing calm about this jet engine. It spins about 1 million RPM, makes enough noise to blow down trees, and Roger Gustin sits right beside it. Gustin put on quite a show last Sunday at the Southern National Drag Races.
You're sitting in this lava machine and you're looking down a track here. It's like looking into a tunnel, and it's got to be the greatest thrill that you could ever have as far as I'm concerned. It's exciting.
And there goes Rocket Roger. That cat sure is fun to watch. I'm Dave Despain for Helen Casey and all of us here at Motorweek. Enjoy your Easter weekend. We'll see you next Saturday at this same time.